What if history books weren't just something that you read, but something you lived? Chronicles Medieval from the newly formed Raw Power Games isn't just another medieval sandbox. No, this is an ambitious, multi-layered blend of strategy, RPG mechanics, and historical immersion, brought to life by the developers, well, a lot of them who worked on games like The Witcher 3, Total War, and even Red Dead Redemption 2. And today, we're going to dive into what might just be the most promising medieval RPG on the horizon. At first glance, Chronicles Medieval looks like a dream blend of genres: third-person role-playing, open-world exploration, layered military strategy, and even an economic simulation, all wrapped up in a historically grounded setting inspired by 14th and 15th century Europe. But here's the twist: you're not the chosen one. You're not some sort of dragonborn or warlock. You're just a guy, a human. You bleed and you make decisions and you have to live with them. That's the core of what they're kind of trying to do with Chronicles Medieval. The developers put it this way: we want you to remember that you are not the hero here. You are a human being fighting another human being trying to survive. This isn't just about winning battles, it's about living through them. The developers released plenty of footage, but also an interview with themselves, talking about the game. And a standout moment from this dev commentary was the rejection of the washed out, gritty aesthetic that often people associate with medieval media. Raw Power Games, the developers, is opting for a more vivid medieval ages. Think of like a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where some time and effort has actually been put into the historical accuracy, trying to recreate what life really was rather than just what it kind of has this Hollywood effect in the last few decades. This means colorful clothing, diverse architectural styles, and rich environments, dense forests to busy towns and sprawling castles. The developers describe their world-building philosophy like this: modern media tends to fixate on the dull and grey aspects, but we think that the medieval life is actually quite colorful. From a visual perspective, this is a conscious choice, and one that sets Chronicles Medieval apart from games like Mount and Blade or even For Honor, which kind of go towards a more subdued color palette. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has managed to lean into this more historically accurate medieval world, having these colorful banners and of course clothing and armor. But it's nice to actually see some other developers catching on and seeing that this has been successful. Maybe we can do something with it as well. But let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. Combat in Chronicles Medieval is where realism meets ruthless design, using motion capture and historical martial arts for references. The developers aim to make every sword swing, block, and decision count. There's no button mashing here. Just like in real medieval combat, you need to make sure you're picking the right weapon, the best weapon for your fighting style, and also learning those weapons techniques. Wearing the right armor, whether you're going up against someone with blunt weapons, and of course they're going to be better at punching through plate, or maybe you choose to have chainmail because they've got sword or sharp bladed weapons. You need to time your strikes perfectly, and most of all, make sure that you're emphasizing the weight and consequences to be able to survive. Every single choice you could make will reward you or punish you within this game. Whether it's a one-on-one duel or surrounded on the battlefield, survival just isn't guaranteed, and the goal isn't a power fantasy. It's to make you feel the weight of your blade, your armor, and your decisions. One of the most intriguing features of the game's multi-layered approach to warfare is actually the battles taking place on 3 distinct levels. There's the first one, the combat layer. You're fighting on foot in third person, visual and personal. And we've seen from the trailers, granted they are sort of CGI mock-ups and base cinematic, but this is you in these warfare situations. Of course, being one soldier in this huge battle. Tactical duels and up-close chaos, blood, mud everywhere, not quite knowing what's going on. You then have the captain layer. You can command local units as you start to get promoted, and of course, you can control people in your vicinity, sort of leading charges, holding flanks, rallying men to you as a captain in this huge army. But then it goes up one more layer, and this is the general's layer. Think more Mount and Blade. You are commanding whole sections, a whole army of people. Pre-battle planning and strategic control. You're preparing troop movements, battlefield positioning, and high-level tactics. Now, this trifecta creates some really cool depth that we've not seen outside of full-scale RTS games, and it's even more impressive how they're trying to integrate it within an RPG progression mechanic, and of course the decision-making, the gameplay style that all comes with that. Outside of the battles though, you're dropped into a massive overworld. This represents a large swathe of medieval Europe. The map is more than just decoration though. Everything is living and breathing. Traveling to towns and castles is something that you can do, maybe even accepting quests and performing missions, attacking caravans or raiding bandit camps, building relationships with NPCs and hiring companions to go on adventures, influencing trade routes and even affecting regional economies. When you choose an action, whether a battle or event, the game zooms in from the top down to third person seamlessly, bringing your decision to life at ground level. Think about, Total War, but you go into a Mount and Blade style battle. Now, of course, you have a lot of those similarities with that Mount and Blade as well, but there isn't that loading screen. It is just a zoom in and you're there on the battlefield itself. Kind of a Mountain Blade meets Crusader Kings, but with a bit more immersion, storytelling, and hopefully some more realistic mechanics. Now, Chronicles Medieval does have a story, but it's not a linear game. There's no fixed path or set role. You can be a mercenary looking after coin or trying to chase the next bounty, a noble forging alliances through diplomacy, a warlord carving out territory, a merchant if you want to do some trading as well, or something completely unique. Think of it as a true RPG, but with just these RTS mechanics. You're choosing your goal and writing your story, and as the developers have said, history has already been written. This is based within history, not some fantasy world, so everything is going to happen as you might expect, but this time you are holding the pen. You can make changes, and you can decide how to influence the history that's already happened and which way it goes. And based on what's been teased so far, you might even be able to do things like forming relationships, diplomatic marriages. There's even one cinematic scene in the trailer showing a kind of a romantic moment that could hint towards a broader social system that is tied within the game, but this is something that hasn't yet been confirmed by the developers. A key strength though, as Chronicles Medieval keeps saying, is its system-driven design. As one of the engineers puts it, we've made a decision early on to build all our systems, from decision-making, performance and gameplay, into one cohesive framework. This means that your actions will affect the world, not just in combat, but in trade, reputation and politics. Want to collapse a rival's economy? Cut off their supply routes? Maybe you want to build a reputation, or just as a leader, make the right decisions where it counts. This is all interconnected, and you have to be careful at what consequences come out of these decisions. The in-game economy, for instance, it runs beneath the surface. You can't necessarily see everything that's going on, but you can have an impact once you learn it. Being able to raid caravans or even blockade ports, affecting everything from village prosperity to available mercenaries, and you, the player, can influence this in direct, but sometimes even more importantly, indirect ways. You start small as sort of a lone adventurer with a blade and a dream, but there is going to be a progression system throughout. Over time, through battles and alliances, you can make these hard choices, whether you defeat enemies, build up your own army, siege castles, or forge a kingdom entirely themselves. There is no real limitations on the direction that you take your character, so you can just be the sellsword, or you can go down the route of a more diplomatic person. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to lean more towards the tyrant. You know, it is grounded in history after all, so we've got to kind of keep it to the way it should be. This game is entirely built on Unreal 5, but Raw Power Games is also using their own Asgard engine to help handle large-scale events like sieges and dynamic world simulation. They blend the proven tech with proprietary solutions to try and see what they can pull off, because this is ambitious. Huge battles, but more importantly, persistent consequences, a persistent world, and seamless transitions between the overworld map and the battles themselves. The devs are still also building modding tools, but they're actively designing the game to be a community-friendly one from day one. Feedback sessions, playtests, and laying the groundwork for, well, long-tail player-driven ecosystems. It's all going to be in there. This is not just going to be a done it and left. This is going to be a continued project that the community can be involved in as well. So here's the bottom line. If you're someone who dreams of an immersive medieval world, if you love games like Total War, Crusader Kings, Mountain Blade, and Kingdom Come Deliverance, but have kind of always wondered what they'd be like if they were all within one, this is kind of the RPG for you. If you want the scale and strategy of these Total War games from the ground up, you should probably pay attention to this one. Now, Chronicles Medieval on Steam currently does not have a release date as of this point in time, but I suspect it's going to be within the next year or so. So if you want to know more about the game, make sure you click that subscribe button and check out the channel for more content. But until then, I will see you in the next one.